So what we're gonna do today, guys, I'm gonna show you how to do the line. All right, so I've got basically all the tools that you would have over on the counter, over here, and then all the tools that you would have at your table are here also too. So remember that when you are making your slabs and wedging clay, you should be over on the counter, but when you're building, constructing, putting things together, that's all done at your table, okay? So also too, remember that we are keeping our tiles just in the bags without the boards, because again, the boards are bowing because of the moisture from the clay. And then if your board seems like it's still bowing and not doing well, you may just want to keep your project on your plastic bag while you work on it. So just to let that dry out a little bit. But also too, what we're noticing is that the bowing of the boards is also bowing the tiles. So just make sure your tile's still nice and flat, okay? I actually still have one piece here that I still need to add, so I thought I would do that before I do the line, just as a review. For anybody who needs a review on how to, you need to be up here, how to add two pieces of clay together, okay? So this circle is gonna go right here. Now this is actually a design change, because if you guys look at my design, this little circle was supposed to go down here in this corner, about right here. But this is my second period classes design that we kind of collaborated on. This is the one that won on Instagram. And when they saw me make these shapes, they're like, I think it was about 3 or 4 of the kids were like, I think you need to put that shape on top of the big one. So we made a design change, all right? So I'm gonna show you guys how to add these two pieces. Now remember, when you are rolling out your slabs for your shapes, you are using those thin dowel sticks because we want this to be thinner than this, because again, I just had that conversation with you guys about clay getting too thick. We don't want it to. So I rolled out a 1/4 inch thick slab. I cut out my shape using the cookie cutters, and now I'm gonna score both shapes. So all that I did was, and I'll show you, I did trace around where I wanted that to go, so I know where to score my clay. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where to do that. But when you score, you want to score it really well, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and start scoring this piece. So you're going to score both pieces that you're adding together. And I am going to work outside the edge of where that needs to go, because I just want to make sure I get everything covered, okay? Now, the slip part. Now, a lot of people are kind of getting a little, I don't know what I want to say. Yes, this is messy, okay? When you're doing this, it is best to use your finger. I have seen some people using, again, these wood tools, and this is a good example to use. Using the wood tools to scoop this out and basically put on their project. I'm okay with you guys doing that as long as you clean this off, but as you guys can see, this one has not been cleaned off. And because of that, it makes it really hard and pretty impossible to use the tool, okay? So if we can't clean these tools off after we're finished using them, then I'm gonna say, no, you're just gonna have to use your finger like everybody else, okay? What I do is I use the back of my finger, so that way the slip doesn't get under my nails. And I'm just gonna take a bunch of this. I am going to spread that out. Yes, it's messy. Art's always messy. And you're gonna spread this out. It's like spreading peanut butter on a peanut butter jelly sandwich, okay? You wanna have enough on here so that when you put the two pieces together, you do see some of that slip kind of squish out from around it, and that will give it a good seam. So I've got that on there, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use my finger, and I'm just going to give that a really good push. And then I'll just use my other finger to just kind of clean up around these edges. And again, what I'm looking for, and I'll show you here, I want to look for a nice seam around there. I don't want to see any gaps. If I see any gaps, then I need to go in and fix that. All right, but that looks pretty good. And that should be all right. Easy peasy. All right, so there's my last shape on there. All right, so now, let's get to the lines. All right, so I am going to do additive and subtractive, and I already kind of told you guys this before. I'm gonna use additive sculpture for these straighter lines right here. So I'm gonna actually roll out a slab and cut those out. And then these curvy lines, I'm gonna use with subtractive. So I'm actually gonna carve them out, all right? So there's a couple different ways I can go about this. I could literally take, and I'm gonna take my pencil out of my hair. I could take my pencil and actually kind of sketch on here where I see this stuff going. And see, I've already kind of changed my design. And so, let's see here, I'll do this first one here. So I've got a curvy line here. Now, here's one of the things that we need to think about is that we do not want to carve all the way off the edge of our clay. So even though my design goes past the edge here, I don't want to carve anything past this edge. So I am going to leave some of this. I'm going to kind of have a border around here, because when we glaze these, we don't want the glaze to kind of fall into those cuts and then just drip off the side of our tile. So those cuts that we're making, if we take them all the way past the edge, could almost act like rivers for the glaze, and again, that could be kind of bad. So I'm just kind of drawing on top of this. Where I think I want that line to go. And again, I'm just using my pencil, just like I do a pencil. I'm not carving in real deep here, because if I don't like this line, I want to be able to just take my finger over it and wipe over top of it and start again, okay? So I'm going to kind of use it like that. And then next thing I'm going to do is go in and then add in that line variation that I had in my design, so making some areas look like they're thin and thick. So I'm just basically drawing on top of my clay. So there is, you guys can see that, where I did that. So the idea here is that I'm gonna carve that out, okay? Now, ideally what I would do, guys, I would draw all of this out before I would do any carving or anything like that, just to make sure I like everything. But I don't want you guys to have to sit here and watch me do this for 20 minutes, okay? But what I would do is draw all that stuff out first. I'm gonna go ahead and actually make a slab for some of the additive lines, okay? Now, as you guys may have noticed when we were doing the shapes, I wasn't giving you much clay. This is kind of what's nice about these, you know, steps that we're doing after we make that base tile, is that you really don't need much clay at all. When you don't have much clay, it makes it easier to kind of roll things out, makes it a lot easier to wedge the clay, okay? So I'm just gonna wedge this clay. I can just do it with one hand. And again, when you wedge, you know, you always wedge every time I give you new clay. Don't trust that the clay is ready to go, okay? So, it feels pretty good. Just want to make sure it feels pretty consistent and even. I'm going to do the same thing that I've always done. I'm going to kind of put it into a block first, and then use my fist to kind of get this started, keeping everything consistent. Now, the more times you do this, the better you're going to get at it, okay? But of course, when we made our initial tiles, we were using a lot more clay, okay? And we were using much bigger dowel sticks. But remember, when you do your shapes and even your lines, if they're additive, you're going to use the thin dowel sticks. So I'm going to roll this out. And I always start in the middle. And I do like to flip this. I think it helps to get the clay so it doesn't stick to the board even too as much. All right, so I'm just gonna roll that out until there's no more to roll out. And then all that I'm going to do is I am going to cut out my rolling pencil. Then I'm just gonna kind of cut out these lines. Again, you can draw them before you cut them, but mine are pretty simple, so I'm not going to. I think I can get it. So here's basically one. And then I just need to figure out where I'm going to put it. Put this way. There. Ooh. You know, so I'd go there. Now remember, when we're adding our shapes, I'm not gonna let this kind of, I don't know, I could maybe. If I scored and slipped that really well, I could get that to, I'm just gonna kind of play around. I could get this to kind of wrap around like that. Ooh, I don't know. What do you guys think? Like it? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, I might do that. So it's not added on there, but I would need to score and slip that on. I can cut some more shapes out of that. Another way you can make some shapes, I'm going to show you guys this. This is pretty cool. So I made my shape out of a slab because it is kind of flat and had a lot of straight edges. Another way you can do that is making a coil, okay? Now, please understand that I am not a very good coil maker. I have tried for many years. I am not good at it, okay? So I'm going to do my best here. Maybe I can make this work. So when you make a coil, you're going to take some wedge clay, and I just start by rolling it in my hands like this. And then when it gets too big, then I move it to the board. You can also, I've had a lot of kids, you can do this on the table too. It won't stick. So I'm not pressing down really hard at all when I'm doing this. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of putting my hands in the middle of the coil and I'm rolling kind of spreading my hands out as I roll. That helps kind of thin it out. Now if I do, and this is what kind of happens, you can kind of see here, I've got a thin part and a thick part. If I have a thick part, then I put my hands on top of that area and I kind of just roll over that for a little bit until it kind of evens out. So that's just what I have figured out which works best for me. The way to learn how to do this stuff is trial and error. You know, you just gotta do it, figure out what's going wrong, try to find a solution for it, and just keep going. Actually, that's not too bad. Hey, maybe I finally learned, guys. Only took me about 30 years. So, yeah, not too bad, okay? And what I could do is, I can add my line this way too. So I can, you know, do things where I can kind of weave this in and out, around, whatever, okay? But you could kind of add that on there. I could even, let's say I scored and slipped that on, then I could even give it a little smush and I could flatten it out too, okay? So there's a lot of different ways you can do the line. With additive, so you could roll out a slab, cut out a line that way, you can make a coil and add it that way. Now when you're carving it, okay, I have the shape that I want to carve. I have gone in and I have picked out this carving tool to help me with that. So when I carve this, I'm going to do best to kind of do this so you can see. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside that shape and I'm going to carve it out. Now, the big question is, how far do you carve it out? You don't want to obviously carve all the way through your clay, but I do have quite a bit of thickness here to kind of work with. So I would say I wouldn't go any deeper than half. Just going to carve out a little bit. And this is also going to help to take some of the weight away, okay? So you can kind of see what I've carved out so far and just how deep I've gone. I haven't gone too deep, okay? I can always cut more out later if I want to, but I would say stay on the kind of conservative side. Just do a little bit and then we can always go back in and take more out. Now, my advice on how to approach the lines. One, I would draw down where you think you want things to go with just kind of using a regular pencil, not one of mine out of the bin, okay, don't make it dirty. But take a pencil and kind of draw where you think you want things to go. I would definitely do your additive sculpture first, okay? I would do the additive sculpture first, and then I would do the subtractive last, okay? So additive first, subtractive last. We're gonna be doing this today. Black Day is gonna be all about line. And I'm guessing even too part of Friday, but Friday we'll be showing you guys how to do your texture practice, which is a Canvas assignment, okay? So there you go. That is it.